Well, welcome again, everyone, this morning. Great to see you all. I'm going to pass over to Craig and Colin today, who've got some, I think, exciting things to talk about regarding templates. Never thought I'd ever say that, but there we are. Over to you, Craig.
Brilliant, thanks Angus, and good morning everyone. Again, this is an opportunity for us to share some new developments in the product. I think we've done a small announcement on the community this week, and this is the first time that you'll get to see it, and we'll do a bit of a walkthrough of the template library, which I'll talk about. I wanted to start with just a little bit of background about why create a template library and what it's for, recognizing that with your help and input that it will evolve over time, and could go in one of various directions, but the template library came about because of both through a number of regular requests that we get. So over the years of having worked in this area, some of you will know we've built up a considerable library of demonstration process content that we use in various different situations and use cases. And we often get asked at the end of those sessions, is there a chance that we can have a copy of that process or something similar? The other thing we hear an awful lot of is that for many people, the approach that we use in SCORE is often a considerable shift from what they've been used to in terms of process mapping. And so while they've bought into the concept and enjoy using it, it's also reassuring if there are some good, well worked out examples that they can review and sort of take a bit of a steer from. So that's been one of the big drivers, really, is helping people getting started. And the way we've done that traditionally when we've been asked those questions is we manually copy that content into people's workspaces. So it's often required a bit of two-way, right? It's required somebody to come and ask us a request for access to that content, and then one of our team to actually go and put that into the workspace required. So this is about, part of this is about automating that and making it much more accessible, that sort of content much more accessible to people who would like to use it. Now there's another part to this, which is actually a lot of that content that we work with is relatively standard, certainly at a certain level within a process, and some of the examples which you'll see in the library are things that we use a lot in demonstrations, and they're processes that people look at and talk about a lot. And the example I'll give is something like a procure to pay process or a hire to retire process, which are both in the library today. Now, we've got some experience of having worked, or considerable experience of having worked with templates of this kind in different ways. Now, some of you may be familiar with the APQC, so that's the American Productivity and Quality Council. They produce and publish something called a process classification framework, which is free to download from their website, comes in a spreadsheet format, and it goes to sort of 3 or 4 levels of a process architecture. So it starts at a very, very high level, value chain level, so describes key operational and support processes, and then they break them down into, say, as I said, 3 or 4 levels of detail. And it's a very, very powerful tool, brilliant as a benchmarking tool, but I've seen, certainly in my experience, and I know some of my colleagues have seen this too, there is a danger when implementing or trying to start a project with a comprehensive framework like this, in that what often happens is the team end up trying to reverse engineer their existing processes into some sort of abstract framework, which has been built in a very generic way. And they actually burn an awful lot of time trying to do that without very, very little value. So what we've tried to do is to provide people with some starter points or accelerator templates, if you like, to help you get going, but not sort of weighing you down with some of the baggage that we've seen created by the more comprehensive models. And so there's going to be you'll see just we've got some starter points in the library today, but what we want to try and find is that right level of detail for a template, which gives people a good overview of what the process is, a framework to get them started, but isn't so heavyweight that it overwhelms them. And so that's, I say, well, that's what we're kind of pitching. Now I'm going to hand over to Colin in just a second, but the other thing that I want to say is that we've started to populate this library, but there's no reason why anyone else can't provide content to the library. Okay, so we've started to put in what we've already got. But if you wanted to share templates in the library, make templates that you've created and you think would be valuable to other people in the school community, then by all means come and talk to us, and we can look at getting them into the library. And again, if we do that, we're more than happy for those templates to have things like your logos on them or links to your website, because this is not just about sharing those templates to help others get started in the community, but also demonstrating your expertise in a particular area, which again we hope will provide some sort of networking and cross-fertilization opportunities for everybody in the community. So I think on that note, I will hand over to Colin. Colin, if you want to take us through what there is today. And
yeah, sure, I will share my.
Craig, while you're just handing over to Colin, just remind I don't really need to remind everyone, because I know you're really good at asking questions as we go, or chat something into the, throw something into the chat box, and I'll keep an eye on that. Also, we've got a new joiner, so welcome. I just let him, I'm not quite sure who you are because you identified as C10610, but perhaps you could just say hello.
I think
hi everyone, it's Cheryl.
Oh, hi Cheryl, I thought it might be you. Great to have you along. Thanks for joining.
Thank you. You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Okay. All right, Colin, over to you.
Yeah, I'm sharing my screen now. All right, so this is the library. So it's available today to everyone, but the best way to find the link is to go on the community website. And then over time, it will be even more accessible via the product itself. So we've pre-populated that with a couple of processes, but as Craig said, we're more than welcome to your contribution, even if branded to your name, where you can to attribute the work to you. So I will just open a couple of them just to show you how it works. So this is what we have. I'm just scrolling through. So let's open the P2P process. So we have two buttons here: preview process and add to my workspace. So I will first preview it. So this is a preview version of the process. This is what you'll have when you add it to your workspace. So this view really allows you to browse through and to have a look at what's going on in this process map before deciding if you want to embark with it. So I'm just clicking back button to go back to my library. All right, so this is a P2P. I want to add this one. Let me add it to my workspace by clicking the button. And here we are. So you can still preview it. We are very conscious that more and more of you guys have more and more workspaces. So you can go there and filter which workspaces you want it for. So I'm just gonna use that. This process test 27. This is my.
So Colin, to be clear, any user would just see their own workspaces pop up there.
Yeah, absolutely. You would just see this list, and obviously I have access to quite a lot of workspaces. So right, let's maybe take this one. At this stage, if you're not logged in, the system will ask you to log in first. So because it needs to know you to display the right list of workspaces. So when I select my workspace in the list. You may not have as many as me, but they are very easy to find. I click add to workspace, it will do the job. And then from this button here in the top right corner, I can just click, it will open the workspace. So this is demo quantify. And then here I can find my procure to pay template has been added automatically to my workspace. And at this stage, there's no access rights, nothing. So you can start working on it. It's yours, it's your own, and you can do as many changes as you want and start owning it and doing good things around procure to pay. So the utilization, we made it so that it's it's only a couple of clicks to add content. Adding content obviously is very easy, so you can add as many processes as you want, and if you don't want to use them anymore in your workspace, feel free to archive them. Any questions, comments? Was there anything in the chat?
No, it's great. I mean, in one level, it's a very clear proposition, isn't it? I was going to just add for Cheryl's benefit, really. Cheryl, you missed Craig explaining about, the age-old challenge of templates, which is that you can have terribly complicated templates which don't necessarily help you. So we've tried to build ones which are sort of aimed at helping you get started rather than necessarily, I suppose, map every possible tweak or potential difference in a process. But yeah, it'd be really great to hear what the guys, sort of initial feedback from the guys, and any of you, as to how you think you might use this and other ideas you might, other template ideas you might have.
Yeah.
While people are thinking of questions, I'm just going to jump in a second. Colin mentioned there about needing to log into SCORE to be able to add it to your workspace. So it's worth just mentioning that this view of the library is public. So although we've only currently shared the link through the community, anyone with that link can come in here. So they don't necessarily need to have access to SCORE to be able to come in here. And that's the same for the preview button. So if you go through the library and see a process or a template's of interest, clicking the preview button is, again, it will open it in SCORE, but it doesn't require a login. So anyone would be able to look at it. So again, it's something that you might use to share with people who don't yet have access to the software, to give them a sense of what it might look like.
Cool. Thanks, Craig. I think Steve was trying to. There we go.
It was just interesting because we've sorted out how we want to use SCORE. And one of the things that we've been wrestling with, if you like, is templates. Because if you go into a company, small company, and they haven't got they could just done it on an ad hoc basis. You can get the question, well, what's the best of breed? Well, it depends on the size of the company, for one. But we've started to build up some SCORE maps that match, so they're a total match to the automation. So our hiring process, so it's not a lifetime process, but it's from when you realise that you need to hire to when you get the onboarding, the person actually arrives and does all the things. Yeah. So that could be a template, but we're using it at the moment for demonstration purposes. But I'm not so sure. Well, it could go up on yours, but I'm just thinking. This might be useful one day when we get more mature as a down at our level, not at the SCORE level.
I think templates don't have to be over-engineered because, as Craig mentioned, it can be a bit of a counterproductive if your template tries to cover every single cases, and you lose this thing of, I see templates more as a conversation starter. So if they are fairly high level, that they steer people in the right direction without showing them the whole way. I think that's the job of a template to me.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And you would go in with this, right, here's a very thorough way of doing it, and people immediately start wanting to change it, and that's fine. And of course our we've got a very agile system that we're trying to map to, so we can very quickly change things. So I agree with you on that.
One of the things that we've decided to do here, if I take the hire to retire process as an example, so we have quite a comprehensive demo model of this process, and what we've decided to do with the template library is provide quite just a sort of high level template for the end-to-end view. But then we will over time actually split out the details as separate templates. So for example, you mentioned the recruitment process, the onboarding process, and so on. So instead of releasing it all as one single large template will break it down into component parts, because often an organization may already have a high level, or actually they want to look at our lower levels but not incorporate it into their wider process. And so the beauty of this is we can just provide all those sort of standard templates in the library. People copy them into their workspace and then can essentially do what they like with them in there. You can copy the processes into a bigger process, or just delete them if you don't need them, or whatever. So a lot of it's about just making it easier to access.
My experience has been that the high level stuff is actually good, because it lets people understand the whole ecosystem, not just their little bit. Of course, our product works at the very base level. So I think we would like these templates, because it puts into perspective where they sit in the hierarchy or in the function. Because the thing that we learn very quickly is that most people think they got department or functional processes, and they're not. Most of them are cross-functional.
Yeah.
One of the things, there's 2 templates in the library that we've started off with that are a very high level. I mentioned APQC before, so we've put in a version of APQC that's just the top 2 levels. In fact, we've presented it all on one page, so it's a bit of a monster. This is very, very big, and it's perfect for larger organizations. It is the generic process classification framework. They have industry specific ones as well, so this could be adapted. But we've also, so that's great for larger organizations, but we've also provided a similar sort of thing, which we call Your Business on a Page. And it's a much more simplified version. But again, it's a top level view showing the key sort of operational processes and the key support processes. So it goes to that point you just made, which is, a lot of businesses can get too focused on the detail too quickly without understanding the context of where some of these things happen. And so those templates are designed to try and help people go back up to that top level and say, let's just be clear about where in the organization we're talking about, and where does this process touch different parts of the organization.
No,
Hi, everyone.
good.
Hi, everyone. Hi, Craig. I was just going to quip that I really like that the idea of, the process on a page, because typically that's where we start with our customer engagements, isn't it? When we try and bring context in terms of what they do and where everything sits at a high level before we go into the details. So being able to have a template that can help us with that already is very useful. Thank you.
Yeah, the templates, some of these higher level templates, when you add them to your workspace from here, we've included some instructions as well about how to use them, because like the problem with any template is they to some degree have to be quite generic. And we recognize that not every business is the same, and over time it would be nice to maybe do some more industry specific ones. But the idea is you start with, most organizations have some sort of marketing activity, they have some sort of sales activity, they deliver some sort of product or service, they provide some sort of aftercare, they'll have HR processes and so on. So we try to kind of include those most common things, and then you delete and update whatever's most relevant to you.
Okay, that's helpful. Is there a template perhaps for something like a customer journey map?
No, not in our initial launch. It's a great question, because it comes up quite regularly, and the challenge I find with customer journey maps is that as I go from organization to organization, people have quite a different view about what they mean by a customer journey map. So I think if we were to include something like that, I think we'd have to look at some different approaches to presenting customer journeys as templates. Yeah. But certainly, if you're doing some of that sort of stuff, we'd be interested to share ideas and have a look at.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we would have to have a couple. It can vary so widely from one industry to another. and especially from the different type of challenges and interactions you have with your customers.
Yeah, just on the customer journey ones. Hi, sorry, it's James here. That's something that I'd be interested in as well. It's something I have sort of originally started to look at using SCORE based on how we've mapped before. So yeah, that is something I'd be interested in also, and I'm happy to share with you guys what I kind of just some of the ideas I started to put down on that. If you'd like me to just send them on to you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no, that would be great.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And if you have some content, I mean, we're more than happy to take contribution. We're happy to anonymize it. Yeah, making sure that.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, the idea is that this would become a place where people will be willing to contribute templates as well as benefit from them, and obviously be credited for that in some,
Yeah.
at least publicly.
I think we got a topic for a future session there, Angus.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, customer journeys, definitely.
And one of the things I find myself thinking about with templates is whether there's some sort of overlap between a sort of template and a particular business's desire for some sort of standard approach to how they might map something. I haven't quite worked out how I see this working. But you know, if you were, I mean, thinking of James, for example, who has many different parts. James, you have many different parts of your organisation, but you want some sort of standard approach to how you map. I'm sort of wondering how a template could help with that.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the challenges that we will get as well. So while it would be good to have one standard template that we could implement across the wider business, because we do have different brands and different departments as well, it does sometimes give us a challenge that it's not necessarily one size fits all. So, you know, maybe we need to look at the possibility of we have, you know, it's kind of the screen you've got on now, for example, an operational template, and then maybe a back office template and different things like that.
Yeah, I was going to say, some of the ones I've seen recently have been quite interesting. So there's a business that we work with that marketing strategists, and they do a lot of customer journey mapping, but their customer journeys they just look like a standard process in SCORE. And what they're doing is they do a lot of customer research, and they're looking for things like friction within the process, and they attach that as a score against the boxes, and it does exactly what they need it to do. But funnily enough, just right the first week back after Christmas, I was talking to somebody in the finance industry, and they were showing us an example they were building in SCORE where I don't want to say it was complex, but comprehensive was maybe a better word for what they'd created. But it had lots of different layers showing different levels of interaction that the business was having with customers, and it looked quite impressive, but it had taken an awful lot of effort to create, and it was actually used primarily just to show a point to the management team, and it sort of then had a very short life after that. Whereas others I've seen where they have created the customer journey that's maybe a bit more visual, it still uses some of the basic building blocks of SCORE, but again, they're using it for the life cycle of a project, or even beyond that, where they're sort of saying, okay, right now, you know, we're doing really well here, but really bad here. Let's focus our improvement efforts on the area where we're doing badly, and then you see that sort of change over time. So again, it's there's different audiences and different use cases for different organizations. That's where the complexity starts to come in, the difficulty with having a standard way of doing it.
Thanks, Craig. So any other comments or questions? We've got a few more minutes before we're coming up to our allotted time.
Or any general questions about SCORE?
Okay, well, while you're having any final thoughts, I just want to thank everyone for joining us. And of course, as ever, you know, get in touch if you want any help with anything either that's been raised today or any other aspect of your work with SCORE. I'm going to stay on to have a chat with David. So obviously anyone's welcome to stay on if there's anything else you'd like to have a chat about. So I'll stop the recording button now. But